Hi, good morning, all my friends. So, we are in the Swedenborg sampler book. Uh, we ended up on page 182, and I just wanted to start reading with that. Um, you know, today's National Prayer Day, and I'm looking at PBS, and so many people are so nasty, you know. Ah, the president's not perfect. You take the good, the bad, and you try to extrapolate the good out of it. So nobody's perfect. Both sides always have complaints about the other side. It's just ridiculous. And all faiths should come together. We should respect all faiths. Knowing, everybody's searching for God because we have this inner longing. Those of us who are spiritual, in touch with our spiritual, inward, who are enlightened, who are awakened, and yeah, I don't know. Gotta try to make people happy. So that's what we're talking about anyways. So, I was explaining about a situation I had, and I just wanted to make somebody happy and try to, remember that other forces are at work here, and it's hard, it's not easy. All this stuff that I'm reading to you about, and to actually put it into practice makes you feel, and that you're in line with heaven, that you're doing what the Lord wants, but it's not an easy road, Anyway, okay, so it's saying that I guess practice makes perfect. I don't know. All we have is this moment, right? So, okay. Anyway, the power, because they love their neighbor, are entrusted with the powers in heaven. In that situation, they do not have the power. The good, the useful causes they love have the power, and when good and useful causes have the power, the Lord has the power. Okay, so that's what I have to keep reminding myself. He's in charge. Okay, as long as I'm in line with Him, He's in charge. He'll make good come out of it, and I just have to put my faith in that and trust in that. So the people who had the ruling power in the world because they love themselves are thrown out of office after their life in the world comes to an end. They are then forced into slavery. The points above make it now possible to recognize which people have love for themselves. It does not matter how they seem in outer form, whether haughty or whatever. The attributes discussed above are in their inner selves. The inner self is hidden from most other people. Their outer selves are taught to pretend to love the public and their neighbors, the opposite of what they feel. This too they do for their own sake. They are aware that loving the public and their neighbors deeply affects people, increases people's respect for them, and this strategy works because heaven flows into a love for the public and for one's neighbor. The evil qualities generally found in people who love themselves are contempt for others, jealousy, unfriendliness toward people who do not favor them, a resulting hostility, and various kinds of hatred, vengefulness, guile, deceit, ruthlessness, cruelty. Where you find evils like this, you also find contempt for God, for the divine things that are the true insights and good actions taught by the church. If such people honor these things, their respect is only verbal, not heartfelt. Because evils like these are present, Related falsities are also present, since falsities come from evils. Love for the world, on the other hand, is wanting to redirect other people's wealth to ourselves with whatever skills we have. It's putting our heart in riches and letting the world distract us and steer us away from spiritual love, love of our neighbor in heaven. If we have love for the world, and if we long to redirect other people's possessions to ourselves by various methods, especially if we use trickery or deception, and have no concern for how our neighbor is doing, if we have this type of love, we have a strong and growing craving for good things other people have, provided we do not fear the law or losing our reputation. We take people's things away and in fact rob people blind. Yet love for the world is not an opposite to heavenly love, as love for ourselves is. The evils hidden in it are not as enormous. Love for the world takes many forms. It can be love for wealth in order to be promoted to a higher position. It can be love for honor and high position and take for the sake of increasing our wealth. It can be love for wealth for the sake of various benefits that gratify us in the world. It can be love for wealth for the sake of wealth itself. This kind is misery, and so on. Our purpose in gaining the wealth is the use we hope to get out of it. This purpose or use determines the quality of love. The nature of any love is the nature of the purpose it has. Everything else about it serves as a means. To summarize, love for ourselves and love for the world are completely opposite to love for the Lord and love for our neighbor. Therefore, love for ourselves and love for the world, as I've just described them, are hellish loves. In fact, they rule in hell. They also create a hell in us. Love for the Lord, however, and love for our neighbor are heavenly loves. In fact, they rule in heaven. They also create a heaven in us, our inner and outer selves. We have been created to be in the spiritual world and the physical world at the same time. Wow. The spiritual world is where angels are. The physical world is where people are. Because we have been created that way, we have been given an inner and an outer level. An inner level so we can be in the spiritual world, and an outer level so we can be in the physical world. The inner level is called our inner self. The outer level is called our outer self. Everyone has an inner and outer self, but they are different in good people than in evil people. The inner level of good people is in heaven and in light. Their outer level is in a world and its light. The light of heaven within them illuminates the world, the light of the world. The inner and outer levels are united like cause and effect, or like something prior and something subsequent. With evil people, however, their inner level is in hell and its light. Compared to heaven's light, the light of hell is a pitch darkness. The outer level of evil people can be in the same light that good people are in. Therefore, they are upside down. This explains how evil people are capable of speaking, teaching about faith, goodwill, and God, but not from faith, goodwill, and God the way good people can. Our inner self is called our spiritual self because it is the light of heaven, a light that is spiritual. Our outer self is called our earthly self because it is the light of the world, the light that is earthly. People whose inner level is in the light of heaven and whose outer level is in the light of the world are spiritual on both levels, since spiritual light from within enlightens their earthly light and makes it its own. The reverse is true for evil people. So the inner self that is spiritual is actually an angel of heaven. Even while it is alive in our body, it is in a community with angels. Although it does not realize that, after it is released from the body, it comes to live among those angels. The inner self among evil people, however, is a Satan. Even while it is living in the body, It is in the community of Satans. After it is released from the body, it comes to live among those Satans. In people who are spiritual, the inner part of their mind are actually raised up towards heaven, because heaven is their predominant focus. In people who are merely earthly, however, the inner parts of their mind are turned away from heaven towards the world, because the world is their predominant focus. People who have only a general concept of the inner and outer self believe that the inner self is the part that thinks and wills, while the outer self is the part that speaks and acts. Since thinking and willing are internal, while speaking and acting are external. One thing is important to realize, however, that when we are thinking and willing good things in a relation to the Lord and all that is the Lord's, when we are thinking and willing them in relation to our neighbor and all that is the neighbor's, then our thinking and willing are coming from an inner self that is spiritual. This is so because they are coming from faith and love for what is good. On the other hand, when we have evil thoughts about the Lord and our neighbor and evil intentions towards them, then our thinking and willing are coming from an inner self that is hellish, because they are coming from a false faith, a love for what is evil. Briefly put, the more we focus on loving the Lord and our neighbor, the more spiritual our inner self is. From that inner self we think and will, and from it we even speak and act as well. On the other hand, the more we focus on loving ourselves and the world, the more our thinking and willing come from hell, although we speak and act otherwise. The Lord has provided and arranged that the more our thinking and willing come from heaven, the more our spiritual self opens and adapts. This opening is an opening to heaven, all the way to the Lord, and this adaptation is an adaptation to things that are in heaven. On the other hand, the more our thinking and willing come from the world, not heaven, the more our inner spiritual self closes and our outer self opens and adapts. This opening is the opening to the world, and the adaptation is the adaptation to the things that are in hell. People whose inner spiritual selves have opened to heaven and the Lord are in the light of heaven. They have enlightenment from the Lord and resulting intelligence and wisdom. They see truth from the light of the truth, and they sense what is good from a love for what is good. People whose inner spiritual selves have closed, however, do not know what the inner self is. They do not believe in the word, life after death, or anything related to heaven or church, because they have a light that is merely earthly. They believe that nature arises from itself and not from God. They see what is false, a truant sense, what is evil as good. The inner-outer levels discussed here are the inner and outer levels of our spirit. Our body is only an element added on the outside as a container for all the above. Our body does nothing on its own. It acts on behalf of the spirit that is inside of it. It is important to know that after our spirit parts company with our body, it still thinks, walks, speaks, and acts. Thinking and willing remain our inner level, and speaking and acting then become our outer level. People who are merely earthly and sense-oriented, only a few know what sense-oriented people are and what they are like, even though it is an important thing to know. Therefore, I will describe them. Sense-oriented people are people who judge everything on the basis of their physical senses. People who will not believe anything unless they can see it with their eyes, touch it with their hands. Sort of like a doubting Thomas. What they can see and touch, they call something. Everything else they reject. Sense-oriented people then are earthly in the lowest way. And I'm going to just stop right there. I hope you have a blessed Thursday, and leave me a thumbs up, like, and subscribe only if you like it. I don't know how much music I'm going to be doing. I am playing, I am still touching my guitar, I cannot, and the calcification is going down just a little bit. So we'll see what happens with the x-rays tomorrow. All right, take care, you guys. Love ya. Bye.